That story is Rock Prophecy, and it reveals how a wealthy clan of anti-equality dominators have arranged a situation where today's society is unable to raise a defense in time to stop the rock that Jimi saw hurtling towards Earth. When this story was seen at the Library of Congress Copyright Office, plans were implemented to deluge the airwaves with asteroid reports. Media moguls pay their agents to assess stories sent to the Library of Congress for copyright, and then they repackage these concepts for presentation by their own companies. Moguls decide when and how certain issues are promoted and who gets credit for them. Moguls determine how to divert, redefine, and co-opt topics that threaten the interests of the ruling class, like Rock Prophecy does. Just months after my manuscript arrived at the Library of Congress, a media blitz about asteroids began bombarding us all. Every form of media under Mogul control was ordered to co-opt the central issue of Jimi's prediction. There are three things to keep in mind here. Number one, by the mid-1990s, my readership exceeded 6 million people because of my writings about Hendrix. Number two, any media consultants, the moles of the moguls, M-O-L-E, the moles, who saw my writings at the Library of Congress, they all learned how Hendrix is the central connection most threatening to dominators. And third, when I was writing for the Hendrix Company, the next worldwide release of Hendrix music would have carried Jimi's asteroid prediction. This is what I say the Microsoft lawsuit was really designed to stop. It was the delivery of Rock Prophecy. I was in a position to release this worldwide, and Paul Allen's money from Microsoft stopped it. Our world will be destroyed by what Paul Allen did. When I was working for the Hendrix Company, dozens of my writings were published by companies like Warner Brothers, MCA, Polydor, HarperCollins, Atlantic Records, many others. I couldn't keep up with the assignments, and there were dozens of articles written about my work published around the world. But then after the lawsuit paid for with Paul Allen's money from Microsoft, no one anywhere in the world would publish a single word that I wrote, and no one anywhere to this day has reported anything at all about Rock Prophecy. An iron curtain descended around my career. The men who control media decided to redefine the whole issue of asteroids for us. There was a deliberate attempt to make us unreceptive to asteroid stories, to make us tired of hearing about them. If you need evidence of that, read our website page titled The Evolution of Suppression. Now, Rock Prophecy describes how our vulnerability to collision is no oversight. Hendrix is the messenger who had foresight of the disaster. He tried to warn us, and there were others who understood the threat and knew what our race was supposed to do. They too tried to warn and were silenced. I tried to warn and was obstructed. The fact that today we have no defense against asteroids is not an oversight. Jimi is a seer who glimpsed the path of a rock that was set during his lifetime. This isn't a case of some occult peering into the future, so much as it is one of sensing directions of real objects that were already moving through our solar system. He was noticing something's movement. Most of us who listen to Jimi recognize that he noticed things that no one else noticed. He was racing to communicate his vision in a screenplay. It was titled Moondust, but he didn't live to finish it. The vision is now presented in Rock Prophecy. It's the story of how dominators have silenced the seers throughout the ages and retarded history by setting back humanity's advance towards anti-asteroid technology. We are today at a technological state that should have been reached millennia ago. The slim window in geologic time that exists between major impacts is due to close. Rock Prophecy will remain as the explanation of what happened, how human life was evolved by Earth with purpose to develop capacity for flight, explosions, and speed. These are what the planet needs to protect itself from impact. All planets anywhere in the universe that support life evolve the same capability. Life forms that can build flight and explosions technology. That's what planets are concerned with. It's the basis of natural selection. Humans are a protective mutation selected to produce enough destructive force to shatter rocks. We're programmed to function as the teeth of the planet. It always was a matter of time. How long did civilization have to fathom our purpose and rise to the occasion before it's too late? Rock prophecy describes retarded history, chronic setbacks and advances toward anti-asteroid technology. Dominators set us back. Resources hoarded by a wealthy few at everyone's expense. Every day the most advanced minds of our species, they starve on garbage heaps in the third world. We will pay for this inequality. We've already been paying for it. 132 years ago, October 8th, 1871, a series of rocks from space exploded over the western Great Lakes. One of them ignited the Chicago fire, but there were several other major explosions that same night, including a massive impact over Wisconsin that incinerated 1,200 Americans in the town of Peshtigo. Now, the reason most people have not been informed of this is because government officials have reported these impacts as forest fires. And in the case of Chicago, they've reported it as that ridiculous myth of Mrs. O'Leary's cow starting the fire. We all remember that story. Now, it's critical to our ruling class that we believe the deaths in 1871 were caused by forest fires and not by impacts. The reason it is critical to them is because our ruling class has to be able to say that the odds of a future impact are very small. But when the deaths at Peshtigo are figured into their equation, the odds shift from unlikely to probable. And when we add the fact that 14 centuries ago a massive impact triggered the Dark Ages, the probability of an asteroid disaster in the near future goes from probable to certainty. Now, these are all matters of interpretation, but it's only the dominator's spin that gets covered by mass media. So we came here today to say that inequality is a state of hate, from which we have the duty to defend ourselves by any means necessary. Media is owned and controlled by a handful of anti-equality dominators who have closed ranks to censor and suppress rock prophecy and to conceal from you news of this most important story. But when we spell the word live backwards, we get the letters E-V-I-L. Evil is the opposite of live. Evil means that which has led us to death, which is a fitting description of the dominators we've discussed here because their actions have led us to death. And for everyone who sees this, from this day on, when we see that rock coming streaking towards us through the sky, we'll now think of Jimi and rock prophecy, and we'll know who the murderers of Earth are who brought this upon us. And I'm here to say to you, track them down while there is still time. And when you find them, administer to them fairchildness by any means needed, because inequality didn't work. In the absence of equality for all, we can all expect an asteroid-smashed planet. Amen.